All right.
Pop out chat.
And make sure the pop-out chat says live chat, not top chat.
Oh, is that a new thing?
Oh, look at that. Mine says top chat.
Oh,
okay.
We don't have enough. We don't have that many comments being made.
Chat is a top chat. Yeah.
Just in case.
We're not big YouTubers that have thousands of people asking a question. Yet. We'll be there.
No, we won't.
I know.
Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, come on.
It's a hot day in August. Let's go. Thomas, are you doing this?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to episode 116 of the PHP Ugly Podcast. I'm Tom Rideout. With me, as always, my buddy to the left, John Congdon.
116? Are you sure you got that right?
116.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Right. And, of course, as always, my buddy to my right, Eric Van Johnson.
Does that mean I'm a Republican if I'm your buddy to the right?
I think you're further left than John.
Probably.
Further right than
so.
No.
I'm usually more right than John. Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, and John
I'll give you that one.
John has instituted a security state in his children's bedrooms with CCTV cameras covering every possible angle.
You're not going to let me live that down, are you? Ever?
No. How you guys doing this week?
Up to, right. Putting up with demanding clients and not enough time. I was told by yours truly, John, that I'm a mean person. That I'm grumpy.
I did not say you're a mean person. Just when you're sitting across from a client and they're not saying what you want them to say, you look angry. Not mean. You look angry. Like you want to react so bad, and then I'm there and I say something and you're like, then you look like you're mad at me because I'm stepping in and saying they're kind of right.
I have to. We had a client meeting today, and I have to admit I don't think I've ever seen John sweat so much in an office.
What are you talking about?
Sweating. You're a heavy perspirer.
Well, in general, yes. I don't think today was any different. So you're making it sound like something happened today that I don't know about.
No.
Do we need to stop recording and broadcasting and hash this out real quick?
No.
Dealing with clients is a real talent, and John definitely has that talent. I don't have a lot of room for bullshit in my world, so I have a tendency to kind of not like to listen to a lot of it. And the biggest thing that I can't stand is going over the same thing over and over again. And it's like, okay, we've been down this path before, we've been down this road before. So yeah, John is definitely better with the clients than I am.
When you say that, it sounds like I'm minimizing what's going on, and I view it a little bit differently in that I'm validating what they're saying, understanding it, and then trying to give some sort of feedback. So I learned a long time ago from previous CEOs when I've worked in companies that a lot of the time, if the CEO is saying something, it's not personal, and what they're looking for is, I understand, it won't happen again, and here's how I'm going to prevent it. So we happen to have an outage. It was we were down for 30 minutes last week.
Yeah.
Wait, which table did you drop this time?
No, it was our own doing. Somebody decided that.
Honestly, it was our fault. I mean, there was no question.
But it was an innocuous change. It was one of those you don't expect anything to happen, so they make an adjustment in AWS, and all of a sudden the load balancer just stops like accepting the fact that there's servers available. Like, I don't know all the details. All I know is we made a change that shouldn't have done anything. We have a load balancer and things stopped working. So instead of fighting when the client says, well, we need monitors in place, this can't happen again, and if we are down, we need some other way of, having something up so that people know we're down. And instead of reacting to that, it was more telling them, yes, we made a mistake, so admitting our fault. It won't happen again, and here's why. This specific, they don't want the same thing to happen again. If you keep doing the same stupid mistake, then you're going to be fired, or they're not going to use your services, whatever. So to not do that again, we're not going to make changes to production servers during business hours. It just seems to make sense. So,
and to the person's defense, it wasn't a stupid mistake. It was actually a very normal procedure. I mean, it was a pool of servers that he thought it was okay to go ahead and reboot one of the servers. He was trying to work out an issue that we were having with some caching, and so he rebooted. Now, unfortunately, this is a lesson I had learned some time back, but he had rebooted one of the production servers, thinking not a big deal. We have two others in this pool, so I'm fine. So he does that, and because the way AWS intelligence works, it seemed to take a little bit to react to the one that he did, but once he had rebooted the server and saw the server coming back up, he decided to reboot the others. But that actually triggered the load balancer to think that the servers were dropping offline, and it started this whole process of it trying to rotate the servers out of the pool and spin up new servers into the pool. And then something weird did happen. When it spun up the new servers in the pool, it was taking a very long time to attach them to the pool. So it wouldn't start sending requests to these new servers. And then, of course, we continued to make the problem worse because we decided to get aggressive with some of the thresholds in order to try to hurry up and have AWS, get the servers to reattach. And in doing that, it just made the problem worse because of the thresholds, it was taking the new servers out, and it got messy.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it goes back to, you make a mistake, how are we going to prevent it in the future? I mean, a couple weeks ago, the main ops person at another client was on vacation, and we make firewall changes pretty regularly. If somebody is traveling, we'll open up a firewall port for their new IP address, and somebody decided put an IP address in there and commit the rules. All of a sudden, the entire firewall just crashed, but it didn't fail over to the other one properly. So it became this race condition of firewall A was not responding, B picked up, and then A would respond for a second, so B would let go, and we were down for a while until we had somebody go to the cage and pull the plug on firewall A because it wasn't working right. Again, innocuous, you think you're just committing firewall rules. It shouldn't take the entire infrastructure down, and it did. So right then, it's like, how are we going to prevent it in the future? We're not going to commit firewall rules during business hours unless it's mission critical.
It's funny, this one person listens to the podcast, and he reminded me just the night before on the podcast we were recording, I had talked about how uncomfortable I am not having a full-time ops person. And then, the next day, he took down the environment. This just kind of proved my point, Good guy.
Oh,
well, I had you guys had a meetup this week.
We had one last night.
We had a good one.
So I was the presenter for this week's Peak PHP meetup.
How'd it go?
Not bad. A four-person turnout. which
Mhm.
is sort of what we're expecting
For-
for the time being.
It was 4 times as much as last time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Exponential growth right there.
Yeah, it wasn't too
400%.
bad. You know, and we've done meetups at SDPHP where very, very few people turned out.
Mhm.
And I know it can be disheartening as a runner to, or as an organizer, to have the low turnout numbers and stuff. But you can't let it get to you, and I'm glad I did the presentation. It went a little quicker than I had anticipated. I was about 10 minutes short of my time, but
What did you present on?
it was a presentation I'd given at SDPHP about hacking websites through XSS, CSRF, SQL injection, and sort of programmer behavior.
Mhm.
So just sort of a rough entry-level security presentation. I had some code that I used to demonstrate vulnerabilities. I don't like security presentations where they don't show it functioning. They don't
Mhm.
show how the vulnerability works. So I had an old project that I was able to pull up from, I think, 2014 or 2013 at SDPHP when I first presented it. And interestingly enough, several of my examples no longer worked in Chrome.
Really?
Yeah, so Chrome has an XSS detection algorithm now, where if it sees code in a link, if it sees an open or a close tag in a link or a URL, then it checks for that showing up in the page as well. And if it shows up in the page, then it just blocks the whole page from rendering.
That's impressive. That's actually great.
Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
something I hadn't run into before because I do this all the time with admin tools. Admin tools always post back to themselves and show what you just typed in, and several of my admin tools support HTML. So I don't know why I'd never seen this before, but I guess if you put it in a text area or an input, it considers it safe. But if it outputs and actually renders the script, then it considers it unsafe. So interesting work by Chrome. There's a
Is it any
HTTP
open and close tag, or is it script specifically?
It's any greater than or less than or quote sign. When it sees that in the URL, then it passes the URL to this post processor. Otherwise, the post processor doesn't even get run because it's a performance hit. So
Nice.
yeah, it's cool. It was easy to circumvent. You just pass a header that says disable this detection. So if you get access to the headers on the website, your XSS has no problem still executing.
But if you have access to that, then you don't need XSS.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, you know that whenever I present, I'm very careful about which tabs I have open in my browser. No work-related stuff,
Mhm.
because if I happen across one of my tabs that's work-related, it's pretty apparent that I shouldn't be displaying that at a public library.
Yeah.
So I went through my normal process of closing all work-related stuff. What I didn't account for is that the Google homepage on Chrome gives you
Little tabs.
8 little quick tabs that have screenshots of your most frequented websites. So that happened.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. I'm working on the gay websites right now, and it was slightly awkward. But
Dude, the question is, did you try explaining it, or did you just roll with it?
I always preface my meetup talks when I'm using my machine. I always preface my meetup talks with, listen, I work for an adult company. I try to make sure that no content that I work on shows up during presentations. But if it happens, I apologize in advance, and it's not supposed to. So I had actually given that talk. I had given that speech before it happened, and everyone was very generous to ignore that they saw anything at all.
Hilarious. Well, at SDPHP last night, we had Jesse Decker, who we've had speak before at our meetup, and I love his style of speaking. He's so fluent, energetic. The way he talks is just fantastic. The presentation he's doing at Wave PHP in what is it now, 40 days away?
40 days, 10 hours.
Way too quick. Anyway, he gave the presentation he's doing next month last night. So it was kind of a sneak peek at a Wave PHP presentation. Great turnout. We normally get in like the upper teens, low 20s. And what do we have last night? 25?
25
turnout.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic talk. It was all on evented architecture and all about how to squeeze the most out of your CPU. So instead of trying to scale horizontally, use the CPU time that you have. But it takes such a mind shift to be able to take a lot of the things he was talking about and put them into practice. But it was so interesting.
I'm excited for Wave.
Yeah.
Like I said, at my meetup, I was the presenter, but the organizer of my meetup is Brian
Johnson.
Johnson.
Mhm.
Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Wave PHP presenter.
Yeah, so I got to talk with him about Wave PHP. I got my Wave PHP sticker, and as he handed me the sticker, he said, "I just noticed for the first time, even though I've had these stickers for 2 months, that there's an elephant hidden in the logo."
That's my doing.
You know what I said to him? I said, "That's funny because I didn't notice that till you pointed out, and I approved the logo." I literally signed off on whether or not we were going to use this logo for Wave PHP because you guys sent me the link to preview all the logos you were testing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that felt pretty dumb.
It's funny because the stickers I had printed up, I had of what we call the solid colors, and we actually have one that have this weathered look. Well, I haven't had this printed up, but I'm seriously. I think when we print up stickers for the actual conference, I'm gonna print up the weathered look ones as well because
that's what we're using on the site is a weathered look one, I believe.
Well, at the very top, it's not.
For
yeah,
the
you're right.
Speakers is for
over
sure.
speakers, it's the weathered look. Yeah, yeah. I like the weathered look better too. Like I kind of want that one put on the shirts, but I'm worried it won't come out right.
Well, I think the shirts are going to get that weathered look eventually, anyways. So it'll just transition from one logo to the other.
We should do tank tops. We should do tank tops, not t-shirts.
God, no.
It's a beach, man. Tank tops.
Yeah, but you're talking about programmers here. Look at your shirt sizes before you start ordering tank tops.
Good. Tank tops are the way to go.
Well,
I gotta put that on our
we went
list.
to Laracon and they ran out of the triple XLs before they ran out of anything else.
God, so much to do for this conference still.
Yeah, it's all that. Well, we've done everything we can do now. Now it's just a waiting game. Well, that waiting is over. Now we actually have to do stuff again.
So, of the 4 people that were there, you and Brian, are the other 2 coming to Wave PHP? Did you talk to them about it? Convince them they need to?
Did you even mention Wave PHP?
I did a hard sell on Wave PHP to everyone who was there and told them that I brought it up and Brian goes, "Oh yeah, I was supposed to mention that."
He's fired. He's not speaking at the conference now.
Don't worry. Well, okay, first off, I know you can't do that. So he we gave the sell to everybody there. And there were a couple people took stickers, so some interest. We'll see.
Couple people. That's everybody.
That's me and one other guy took stickers.
You're already coming.
Yeah, but I didn't have the sticker yet.
Well, we got some interest in ours as well, so we got a few more people I think that will be purchasing a ticket in the next 40 days, 10 hours, 36 minutes, and 29 seconds.
We got some good talks.
Wait a
too.
second. Your JavaScript doesn't account for time zones.
No.
Mine says 40 days, 9 hours, and 36 minutes.
Well, then it's accounting for time zones because ours says 10 hours. You're
But
an
I'm
hour.
gonna be-
You're an hour ahead of us.
No, but it's a countdown. It's going to happen at the exact same time globally.
Yeah,
It's-
but for you, it's going to happen an hour
Sorry.
earlier if you stay there.
Mm-hmm.
But no one's going to stay here for the Wave PHP conference.
What if we're streaming
You
it?
have to be insane. You're not.
We're not, but what if we were?
Then this might apply.
It applies.
All right.
Well,
So the Wave
the-
PHP site's broken. Got that out of the way.
The countdown is accurate within a couple of hours. How's that?
Within 24
Of-
hours.
Within
US
24, yeah, within 1 day.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be around that time. But yeah, after seeing Jesse's talk, I got kind of really excited. I started because I've been thinking about like the talks that I know of that are going to be there. For example, Marcus Moore's talk. He's building a chatbot that we're actually going to use for Wave PHP, and I got a little preview of it because I'm helping him review his code, and as he's putting his presentation together and as he's adding functionality to the chatbot, I got to see it this week, and it's like that's so cool. So he's got the chatbot now where you can ask it about a what is it? You can ask it about a presenter, or you can ask it about a sponsor, and it gives you the details. I mean, he might be a little ambitious on this, but he's hoping to get it to the point where you can pull up schedules and you can actually favorite talks that you want to go to through the chatbot. And we'll see if it gets to that functionality. But it's really cool to see what he's doing with this chatbot. And
Now, speaking of sponsors,
yeah,
you guys picked up a new sponsor,
we did.
Sunshine PHP.
No, they've been on there for a while.
I just saw that on the site. You sure?
Yeah. Actually, the one we can officially announce now that I don't have on the site yet is actually, can we officially announce it? Right? We got permission to post it. You know what I'm talking about?
Just do it. Man. Just do. Ask him tomorrow, and we'll post.
See, I'm all about the money. We haven't gotten the money in the account yet.
Yeah. All about the greens.
Spoken like a CFO.
But
actually, there's two on here.
MySQL. MySQL is what?
I was gonna say there's another one too. Nexus is a sponsor as well.
Oh, Nexus, yeah. That MySQL we've have actually agreed. So Oracle, again, big company. There was a lot of paperwork to do.
Oh my gosh.
The contracts and everything that went back and forth between us and Oracle just to do this little sponsorship for our conference was insane. And we've probably been working with them for 2-3 months now, and we just got approval to post their logo on our site. So
that's awesome.
It's crazy.
And you have Dave Stokes from Oracle presenting. We had a presentation from him at SDPHP about the JSON column type, didn't we?
We did, but
yes.
not only that, we had a presentation from him on this MySQL 8. It was early. It might have been before it was released, or just right after it was released. But he did a talk on MySQL 8, which is very interesting paradigm shift for MySQL. MySQL 8 introduces a NoSQL document store layer to MySQL. So he has a talk on that the first day, the first day of talks. He's not doing a workshop on it, but he's doing MySQL 8, a new beginning. And it's interesting. Like I said, we saw him. He came down here to San Diego and did the talk for us. I assume it's going to be probably a similar talk that he does at the conference as well. So yeah,
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Speaking of Oracle,
don't say anything bad about Oracle, please. Not until after the conference.
I'm actually referencing. I'm referencing your next discussion point on the Trello board.
Well, hold on. Let's not move on from Wave yet, because I'm just curious, John.
Mhm.
Now that we have the schedule up, what talk? You can pick one talk on each day that you don't want to miss. Which talk is it?
That's the problem, is I can't see the friggin' talks because I'll be working it.
I know.
Anyway.
Okay. Which one can I not miss?
You can plan out your whole schedule, Thomas, but which two do you not want to miss? One from each day. God, I can't even pick the first day. I don't know which one the first day I don't want to miss.
Yeah, that's
I want to see Juan's building a CI/CD pipeline for PHP applications. I've gone through so many different ones, and I would love to see just other people's workflows. Even though I have a workflow already in place that I use, I love seeing others to see, wait, maybe I should be doing something like that.
Yeah. I keep coming to Jason McCreary. He's doing You Don't Know Git. And I feel like I have my head so well around Git, but he's one of those speakers that every time he presents, it's like one of those aha moments, like, holy crap, I didn't realize, that's awesome. I need to start doing that. I'm also really curious about Amanda's Silence is Deadly talk.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at that one too.
Modernizing your productivity. Man, there's so many good talks this first day.
The You Don't Know Git is one of those where we use Git for exactly the purposes we need it for.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get outside of that, you're like, oh shit, what do I need to do? And you'll run into little things, and all of a sudden you're Googling and you're like, well, I see this command out here. They're saying it should work, but I really don't know. Ask her, let me try it.
Yeah,
for me it's not just the talks, but it's the names. Seeing Adam Culp speak,
that would be a good one. Yeah, I don't think I've seen him actually talk yet. Yeah,
you've got Sean Mays against Jesse Decker, which just tears at my heart.
Is that the first day or second? That's the second day, right?
That's day 2.
That's day 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Jason McCreary really sounds great. Tucker Long, the accessibility for everyone, I think, is going to have to take priority for me over MySQL 8.
Side note, last week I mentioned how there were 6 Wave PHP presenters at Laracon, and I named off 5 and I couldn't remember the 6th. The 6th was Sean, who I was there with, who got me the ticket. His name totally had escaped my head. I'm like, I remembered after the podcast, and then of course he called me out after he heard the show. He's like, "Really, dude? Really? We only spent the entire Laracon together." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
I'm the one that gave you the ticket to get in.
But yeah, he was the 6th Wave PHP presenter at Laracon.
So the title for this episode is Eric's Kind of a Dick.
That topic's been coming up a lot today. Apparently, I'm kind of an asshole. So, yeah.
On the second day, Mark McEwen's "Where's the Beef?" Another one we had done at SDPHP.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating topic. It builds on what would be great is, Thomas, if you did your presentation from last night and then went into Mark's Where's the Beef presentation, that'd be
I
a great
covered-
coupling right there.
Yeah, I covered the existence of beef and how it's used. But I'm not experienced with beef, so I'd love to see somebody who's experienced with it. Really.
So basically, you take the XSS stuff where you can inject a script tag, and then you inject the script tag for beef into some random site, and then now you have control of that person on that site and control of their browser and things they have. So it can do things like LastPass detection, and it tries to get into your LastPass account. You can have it play sounds, open cameras.
Oh yeah, the payloads are horrifying.
Yeah, it was so scary. But I think he's going to add it to the presentation for Wave PHP. The thing he was missing at the SDPHP one was the actual implementation. So what he actually did was installed basically the beef front end or code onto a local site and just had people go to that. But what he wasn't doing was showing how you could have an innocuous link out on some site, have people click on that, which starts the XSS. So that was that one little piece that was missing of how could this actually be so harmful? Yeah, you had me go to your site and you're a malicious person, but the whole point is if there's a site out there that's not meant to be malicious, but there's a third person that can make that site malicious now.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm excited for the schedule. Actually, it hadn't occurred to me that since it's a 2-track, I have to figure out what my schedule
You have to
is.
figure out what to go see. Yeah. And we have, again, you mentioned Juan on the first day, John, but he's also given that solid talk that we enjoyed.
He's done that for us before too.
Yeah, he's doing that on the second day, which if that is one of those game-changing talks that really has you sit back and start to rethink how you code and you know what practices, what workflows, what patterns you use.
That's going to be a tough call
solid.
there.
Yeah,
developing solid versus the DevOps for Small Teams by Joe Ferguson.
Yeah,
that's going to be a tough call.
I'm also looking forward to Jeremy's talk, the iterators, generators, and decorators. I'm really looking forward to that one as well.
So are we allowed to like put other people at the desk and we can go sit and
We're
talk?
gonna have to. I mean, like how much is there going to be to do during the talks, right? I mean, as long as we have somebody there making sure people don't steal anything, I think we're okay. Do we even have vendor tables?
Yeah,
I don't think we have a vendor who's opted to manage a table yet, have we?
Yeah, I think Oracle will. But that's a good question. We'll have some.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have the space for vendor tables, but I think a lot of the vendors are pretty much like, we don't need a table. Just go ahead and just put our name on the site. So yeah, if you've been thinking about coming to Wave PHP, needless to say, time is running out. And if you listen to last week's show, John's giving away money again by offering a discount code you can use.
That hasn't ended yet.
Giving it away.
Yeah. But yeah, take a look at the schedule. I mean, just look at the topics, look at the presenters. I mean, we've got Ben. There's so many, just end to end, A to Z, good speakers here. I'm really getting hyped to see these talks now.
You know what I want to do this weekend?
Hmm.
I'm gonna do some work on the Wave PHP site. And
I thought you were gonna work on your Chrome homepage.
No, I did that immediately afterwards. No, I'm gonna put a button on the schedule page that allows you to build your schedule so that you can print it out or save it as a PDF or whatever.
So I've wanted to do that, but haven't. You're saying it on the podcast, so now you are obligated.
Yes, I am doing that this weekend.
Okay.
All right.
So we're gonna have we're going to have a button that lets you build your personalized schedule so that you can have a quick reference.
Thomas is going to edit the podcast this week. He's just going to cut that whole piece out.
If I edit, it's one or the other. I'm editing the podcast and that gets cut out, or I'm not editing the podcast and that gets done. This is negotiation 101, people.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Oh, I didn't realize I had it. So you can click on the. Okay, that's cool. You can click on the schedule and get more about the talk. I forgot I put that in there.
Yeah,
That's
I've
good.
got a lot of work ahead of me.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Look at that. You see the presenters info? Somebody did a really good job here. Who did that? Must have been me.
Eric, you're
Good
awesome.
Must have been Marcus. This picture, I keep going back to this picture of Jesse Decker leaning on a Cobra 427 in his leather jacket. Just Jesus, that guy is too good looking.
Calm down, buddy.
Sorry, where were we?
You've been
All
working
right.
on those other sites a little too long, huh?
We've hyped up Wave enough, I guess. I
Yes.
am getting excited. I'm sure we're going to be talking more and more about it as the weeks, get closer. But I'm truly, honestly getting more and more excited about it actually happening now.
And you'll know how well it went if there's never a PHP Ugly podcast after Wave PHP.
Yeah.
If we're no longer on speaking terms.
No, we've been there before. We still managed to pull it off.
Yeah, Tom got drunk and crashed the sexual harassment talk.
Yeah. We had to evict Tom for our code of conduct violations.
No longer welcome back in San Diego. Like I said earlier, you have an Oracle ticket here, Eric. Tech giant Oracle launches blockchain cloud service program.
Don't even remember the details. That was so long ago. That was a few weeks ago. But yes, I do remember something along that lines. Did you want to talk about that?
No, it was actually a better segue when you were talking about Oracle. Now it doesn't work at all. I'll put that back where it came from.
Well, there you go.
No, I want to talk about hacking.
Well, okay. Let me. I'm going to build on that when you're done.
My meetup this week, my presentation this week was about hacking with XSS and front end and back end and all that stuff. But it's been a weird week in hacking as well. We've had a lot of interesting stuff happen. One of the big ones is that the Snapchat source code got leaked and then put on GitHub. This interested me because, God, where do you even start when your source code is dumped in public?
And you don't know who has a copy at that point.
Well, yeah, it's safe to assume everybody has a copy. Once it's on GitHub, it's safe to assume that it's easily acquired in any nefarious channel from now on. And this, no one really knows how it got leaked. No one knows why. It was just put out there the end, and then Snapchat took DMCA claims to take it down. But now it's out there. Now everyone can review your code for every minuscule vulnerability and test it against their own builds. And I mean, how screwed are you? What would you guys do if your whole system got dumped out in public?
Cry? Is that an option?
You think? I mean, you think it would be that bad of a thing? Yeah.
For something like Snapchat, where you have millions of users, you're I don't know how you survive that.
What is your concern though? I mean, it was only the code, so it's the recipe, but it wasn't credentials. It wasn't
Right,
like,
but
I mean,
like Tom said though, you it's so difficult to have 100% secure system. So
right.
the code out there makes it
Well,
easier for people
it's
who want to
impossible.
hack it. Right. For people that want to hack your site, now they have the code to figure out how to do so.
Mhm.
And
So
then,
what's Snapchat's next move? Do they hire 100 new programmers to audit every single line of code and try to hack it before the hackers do?
or what stops somebody from spinning up a new service with the same exact code?
Well, that's fine.
Well, yeah. I mean, then you can have potential legal actions, and again, somebody spinning up, taking Snapchat's code, spinning up another service. You still don't have Snapchat's clientele, and you still don't have. You're still not Snapchat. So yeah, you spin up another service. You know, hope you don't get caught that you just stole their code to spin up your service. You still have to, get the people behind it.
Now the question is, what source code was it? Was it their API backend? Was it their phone code? Or was it everything?
Yeah.
Because that's also going to make a
So
bit of
to
difference.
answer your question, I mean, I don't particularly want my proprietary code released to the public, and a lot of that, like you said, there's some shaming going on there. There are things in that code base I'm not particularly proud of, and yes, I don't want to have to lose the sleep on trying to figure out where all my vulnerabilities are. But end of day, it's code. You just change code. I don't know.
Yeah, I still think there's a huge difference on a site that has that kind of visibility versus something that doesn't.
Well, I mean, so ask yourself this: every popular site out there that's running WordPress has their code out in the public. And I mean, you do
terrible example.
Yeah, you do. But the point being, it's code. I mean, it's just code.
I mean, it sort of goes to the argument of closed source versus open source, where, I mean, yeah, WordPress is the worst possible example because it does get violated. Yeah, it gets hammered badly, and because it's open source.
I can't help but think that we're one Boolean away from in a GitHub database table somewhere of releasing all code across the board. Like somebody just making the wrong database change in GitHub, and all of a sudden all those private repos become public repos.
Yeah.
We're already walking a very thin line by even letting our stuff be hosted on a service that prides itself on having open source visibility to source code.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all on the exact same platform. It's only a matter of time before something happens where everything gets exposed. Is what I think. So wow, I feel about it.
That's doom and gloomy.
So not the worst thing to have to overcome. Not particularly something I would live through, but yeah.
I like that. I like the intellectual exercise though of what would you do once all your code is public. None of your keys. It's just what faith do you have in your code?
Let me ask you this question, and kind of along those same lines: is how do you handle it when you roll developers off? I mean, I've left positions where I still have their source code because I had access to their GitHub repos. I had legitimate reasons to copy the repos, and the fact that I held on to the code wasn't necessarily malicious. This just happened the other day. I was actually going through an old drive, and I'm like, "What is this? What is this here?" And I click clicked into a folder. I'm like, holy crap, this is that project from that company, way back when. And I mean, I'm sure I've come across source code from probably every job I've had in IT. So, I mean, that almost is just as dangerous.
I think there's multiple answers to this. I think step one is as an American firm, you trust the legal system. I think most people trust the legal system, where if somebody does you wrong, they'll get caught and punished.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I feel like that sounds myopic, but I think that's what most people actually trust.
I'm actually surprised this isn't a bigger issue with disgruntled employees, especially developers who feel like they're gods.
Now, I can
And
tell
when they
you,
don't get their ways.
with server administrators, this is an enormous issue. I've actually researched this back in '99, and do you know what a Tiger team is?
Yeah.
No.
A Tiger team is a sort of a white hat hacker group that finds and penetrates a system to prove what its vulnerabilities are, so that they can be closed up and they issue a report.
And most of the times, the IT teams, even the IT managers, don't even know that they're working.
Yeah, it's in most situations that I've seen, it's only the chief technical, the CTO, chief technical officer, and nobody else, even the CEO, doesn't know, because the CEO is a primary target for, exfiltration of data. So these teams are very good at what they do, and one of the things they do is usurp administrators. Tiger teams get a lot of attention publicly for the hacking, pen testing, and stuff like that, but a lot of the jobs they do are firing somebody who has the highest level clearance in the system, somebody who has God mode over everything. And they'll come in at night and put thumb drives in administrators' computers. And I mean, if you have a CTO, for example, that you need to fire, and he's got access to everything, how do you fire that person and make sure they're not going to compromise your system in the future? And the way you do it is through months of preparation and then a 10-minute execution of a plan where everything is destroyed. All access that they could potentially have is destroyed. Any backdoors that they have been detected and removed all at once. You can't give them a hint that they're going to be fired. And I've read some amazing stories about these kinds of teams where they found backdoors, they found VPN access that allowed them into the system, they found hidden code that would allow them backdoor access to customer records, and they have to close all of these different avenues at once. Because if they close one off, then it throws the scent on them. So that's if I had my dream career, oh my God, that would be it. Sneaking into the office at night and hacking the administrator's computer. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, I'm surprised that this isn't a bigger problem with developers and disgruntled employees and developers who think that they're better than everybody else and all that. But yeah,
You brought up hacking, and literally 5 minutes before we went on air, had a client say their GoDaddy account was hacked, and they changed the DNS record of their DNS server to point somewhere else.
oh
So
no.
all the domains that were relying on those DNS servers were then toast. Luckily, it was minutes. Got notification, was able to get on with GoDaddy and get it all situated, but that's not fun.
I'm surprised that you were able to recover that quickly. I've seen stories in the
suppose-
past of really horrific DNS hacks that just couldn't be recovered at all.
Well, it wasn't DNS hacks. Luckily, it was a weak password into GoDaddy, and actually, while he was on the phone with GoDaddy tech support, they said, "Oh yeah, we see somebody in there now trying to make changes." So, luckily, he was able to get on with somebody, get that person locked out, make a stronger password, enable two-factor authentication, get the DNS, get the record pointing back to our DNS servers. So
That's crazy.
basically, that's what he did. Was whoever did it was able to redirect all the traffic that was going to the DNS servers over to theirs. Whether they were prepared for that, I don't know.
Now, we have another significant hack. This one scares me more. But Homebrew got hacked.
Really?
You guys are Mac users. You know Homebrew quite well. Homebrew is, well, you describe Homebrew because I don't use it. I don't know it as well as you do.
It's basically a composer for
I
PHP.
knew that was going to happen. I knew it.
It's
Why would you not
software
go
package
there?
manager. Yeah.
Well, of course you're going to go there. You make it sound like that was a bad example.
No, I knew you guys were both going to talk over each other.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yes. John, you explain Homebrew.
I just did.
Why does it have to be John?
It's nice. So
I get it.
the scary part about this article is that the guy who hacked in Homebrew and was able to drop a binary file in their Git repo seems like he kind of did it because he was bored, and he's not a hacker. He was just curious what hacking is like and did it.
So let's clarify a little bit of what happened. So the article that posted was how I gained commit access to Homebrew in 30 minutes, and essentially that's what happened. This person decided that he wanted to see if he could get commit access to the Homebrew repo where he could add malicious code and get it committed. And he did it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting exercise, and he walks you through exactly how he did it, and it's kind of cool. Well, not cool. It almost seems like why isn't this exploited more frequently? Because with open source projects, especially that use these build services, we'll post it in the show notes. But it's a quick read, interesting read. But
It's
topics come up a few times about malicious code being added to open source repos and what measures are put in place to capture that.
well, and the access that he had was admin access, so all he had to do was push a commit. But if he wanted to hide that commit, he could do a commit rewrite that made it appear as if it was someone else's commit that had already been accepted and reviewed. My question is the Homebrew project compromised now? Has a malicious team compromised Homebrew a long time ago, because this literally took 30 minutes, and slowly inserted their malicious code into the system, and now just all Mac machines running Homebrew are compromised?
I don't think there's any evidence of that.
I
So
think
how
that's
you may not know it though.
right. That's the
What he's
key
saying.
the key with
Oh,
real
fud.
malicious.
You're
key
doing
with real
glue. You're
malicious
not doing
actors.
FUD, okay? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We're not going down that path. This was a good read, but there's no reason to think, well, now every Mac that runs Homebrew has
Okay,
been
well,
compromised.
You can't just say Tom's not allowed to do his segment. So
I can if you're not doing your segment. Your segment is not about fear.
I have to announce it.
what is your segment?
Breaking
Doom and-
news.
Doom and gloom is
Doom
your
and
segment,
gloom.
not FUD. There's a difference.
All right, fine.
You're right. I am.
I'm just saying,
If
paranoia.
everybody's right. I'm an asshole. I'm a mean person.
Paranoia is a way of life for me because of my experiences in the security sector in the past. Is the real viruses you need to worry about, the real worms you need to worry about are the 0-day ones that don't have any method of detection at all. The ones that are doing something it's not data mining.
And I'm worried about getting shot in the head every time I go into a 7-Eleven. So let's move on. I mean, these are all concerns.
Now our sponsorship with 7-Eleven is just dead in the water. Thanks.
I mean, this has always been one of my frustrations with security. Security groups in general. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with these white hackers, gray hackers who find these vulnerabilities, who expose these vulnerabilities, who show ways of fixing it. But I really, really have a short fuse with security professionals who come on and say, well, because of this, every computer now can be compromised. It's like, what? You have no basis of that. I mean, why are you even saying that? Are you offering a solution? Are you telling us what to look for? Are you telling us how? No, it's just making those stupid statements like that irritate the holy hell out of me. And when I was in Enterprise, we had a security group. That's all they did. Well, Apache has a security flaw now, so all the websites can be compromised. It's like, what? No, what are you talking about? No, they don't have access to install Apache. I mean, it's so frustrating. I really, really can't stand when people do that. And you just did it, and it irritated me.
I feel like this is the key to the success, the wild success of our podcast, the massive 2,100 downloads over the last 3 weeks success of our podcast. Is that I am on the literal opposite end of the spectrum from you. I believe every computer is compromised.
And you think it's fine just to cause this chaos and not give any resolution, not give any direction, just point and say, "Oh, you're probably compromised. You're probably compromised."
No. Nobody listens to us.
Doing,
I'm not causing any chaos. Ignore my previous statement.
You did with me. I was on the same page as you. Like, yeah, it's possible. You don't know.
And typical John always jumps to the other side of the fence on me.
Always being nice.
Always being, I understand this person's view.
All right. Back in the security realm, and on one of our favorite topics, the Laravel maintenance system.
We got bit by this.
Bit by it? Yep. Like you got compromised?
No. We didn't get compromised. But we saw the security patch come out, and it was weird because we're working on a Greenfield app. There was no reason to push the patch through immediately, but this security patch came out for Laravel yesterday. We looked at it. We're like, okay, well, we need to apply this eventually anyway, so let's go ahead and apply it. And we applied it to our Greenfield app, broke the entire app. Like nothing would work after we applied it. It's like, what the hell? And it seemed like an easy enough change. And we narrowed down the problem because the Greenfield app is a heavily API driven application where we're using Passport.
It's right there in the documentation. Passport 607 has been released with a new without cookie serialization method.
That's new though, John. That wasn't there
when in the security patch. So the issue here is that cookie serialization in a security patch has been disabled. You can re-enable it, but this is a backwards compatibility breaking change in Laravel in a minor revision release.
But it's a security patch. I mean, it's not a minor religion release. It's a security patch. Yeah, it is. It's a security patch.
What's the CVE number? The CVE. What's the CVE number for this security patch?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
No, there's one.
It's still backwards breaking.
I'll tell you.
5629 to 5630. That's a minor release.
There's no CVE.
All right. Well, there's no CVE. I mean, it's still a security patch.
I understand that.
Breaking.
When I hate to dig. I said hate. I meant love. To dig into this again. Enterprise ready. That means CVEs. That means security patches are not backwards breaking.
They don't have control over that. They don't have control over those being made. They just identify it.
Making a CVE is the thing you should do when issuing a security patch. If a CVE doesn't already exist that's disclosing the security vulnerability, you should be making one. And as the upgrade guide notes, the vulnerability is only exploitable if your API key, your encryption key, has been disclosed to a malicious user. Which seems crazy to me. Because if your encryption key has been disclosed to a malicious user, you have more problems than just the cookie serialization.
Potentially.
Not necessarily, no. Not necessarily. So what is happening with the serialization is now you can inject code into the unserialized method and have remote access. So in this case, it is more dangerous than having the security key to get access to cookie information on other people's machines. Because now, for that, you need two pieces. You need the key and access to other machines to gather their cookie data.
So are you saying that something in the cookie is getting exec'd locally?
There's a PHP vulnerability with unserialized. So if you're unserializing data that you're not in control of, there is I believe it is a remote execution vulnerability. You can have unserialized execute code in your application.
Okay, but isn't that a PHP vulnerability?
But that's a known vulnerability in PHP. Now, if you have cookies being unserialized and you can inject data into that cookie, and you're always unserializing it, that's exploiting that.
So my issue is I'm not seeing that explained here. I'm seeing a feature that you guys literally used being removed from the newest version because of a vulnerability in the core, which Laravel is not responsible for.
It wasn't removed, it was patched.
No, serialization was removed as the default. And you have to use a new static protected argument variable to re-enable it.
Right.
So like a feature was removed as the default, which is a breaking change, and a new feature was added to toggle that functionality.
It's so the unserializes PHP object injection, and it is a remote vulnerability.
All right. So I see your point, Thomas. I'm trying to take the lessons John taught me. Agree with the person. Don't look like a complete ass. I see your point from an enterprise perspective that there is a process around explaining security and vulnerabilities that is a common practice in the industry. So, yeah, going back on whether or not Laravel is enterprise ready, an argument could be made there of then you should follow these common practices. I think we have long stated that Laravel is missing a lot of pieces as far as being enterprise ready. So the fact that they chose to handle the security patch internally, when I say internally, I mean internally to the project. I don't really understand the concern there. And then you both seem to be mentioning the fact that it's breaking change.
Here's my concern: is that this is a breaking change for platforms developed on top of Laravel, and the break will only occur when you implement the change. The proper way of doing this was to keep the default at serialization and to add the functionality to turn serialization off.
Right.
So now if you want to keep serialization,
But
you have
isn't
to
that keeping the-
change code in your code base versus in the framework that you're downloading as a library.
But
So-
isn't that keeping the default isn't that keeping the default behavior as vulnerable then?
Yes,
Within-
but
within
it's
a
a
single-
vulnerability.
Within a security release, yes. Because the security release is to say there's going to be a coming new major release that will address the security patch as the default.
And to me, it's different in the sense that it's not a security vulnerability where everyone is all automatically vulnerable. The attacker has to have your encryption key to be able to attack you. So it's not going back to that FUD. It's not a widespread attack. It's not like everything that was 569 is all of a sudden vulnerable.
Right. You can't just spread Spectrum, search the net for Laravel installs. You have to have a very, very secure value in the first place, and that would let you run arbitrary code. And then even within the notification, the upgrade notification, it says if somebody has your API key who shouldn't, then you need to change it. So
I think this just goes to show
it
the
hurts more than
problem
it
with,
helps. That's my
with
issue.
security in the industry, because you can never do it right. You know, it's like it's one of the
There's a
caveats of
procedure.
security.
There's a procedure for doing it right. I don't feel like this followed the procedure.
But
I
even
think
yeah.
addressing new installs is one thing, and addressing existing installs is another thing. And we haven't patched for this because our API key or our app key is secure. We don't feel compelled to immediately update this, but it's also worth note that this patch is only for 5.5 and 5.6. Previous versions, which are also affected by the same vulnerability because it's core to PHP, not Laravel, are not supported at all. 5.4 is not getting updated. 5.3, 5.2, 5.1, not updated.
Because they're EOL?
Yeah. So even if you want this, if you really have this issue, what are the odds that you have the latest and greatest?
That's true. Yeah.
And my experience with security patches is that if it's really severe, you support stuff that's still EOL.
I don't see it as an oh my gosh, the sky's falling, because it's not.
Well, that's where you and I and Eric are different. I believe in the chaos of the system.
I agree with John. Yeah. And again, it seems like a lot of this could have been changed. Like if you saw the security notice and you didn't want to apply the patch, you just go in there and change your app key.
Yeah, but if your
say,
composer file includes security patches by default, and someone pushes a change to production without realizing that it's going to update their system, you could crash a live application without knowing it now.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a very real case. Is that if you're including 5.6 point star, then your application just died the next time you push to production.
Right. And actually, where I was going when this conversation started is we actually applied this to our Greenfield app. It completely broke the application. We narrowed it down to it being a problem with Passport because we're using Passport for the authentication between Vue.js and all the APIs. And as of yesterday, there was no mention of any changes that needed to happen to Passport. And of course, yeah, I told the team only just go to bed, sleep on it. By morning time, there'll be some sort of issue opened up on this. And sure enough,
The Laracast forum.
Yeah, and we got our Greenfield app up and running again, fortunately. But
yeah,
fun stuff. Security's fun.
It's weird to me. And especially after Laracon, where one of the keynote points was addressing upgrade backwards compatibility breaking issues.
I heard from some people about our podcast last week. Some people,
I was curious.
Yeah,
I was really curious. We bashed
gotta be
pretty
honest.
hardcore.
I got to be honest. I mean, most of it was pretty positive. I mean, nobody called me on the mat and said I was an ass or anything like that. And there was even some agreements of people acknowledging, yeah, Laravel seems like it's more of an ecosystem than what I consider a community, at least. I mean, I think that was something that was brought to my attention as, what I'm considering community to be. And I'm like, yeah, I guess there is a differentiation there, but
now I have to ask you a question then. If I was out of bounds on this, Brian was talking about his presentation for Wave, and he said, yeah, he still has to go through and remove all of the references to Peak PHP and the logo and stuff. And I said, well, no, you don't. You can keep that in. This is a community event.
I agree.
You guys want to focus.
We're okay with it? Okay.
I know. I like to use the royal we when we're talking about Wave PHP because I like to present myself as being somehow involved in the actual process through the podcast and my self-promotion of it.
So you're committing to a third of the budget or the cost?
There we go.
Perfect.
I'm good with that. You're good. You're good with that. So now,
I'm sorry. My mic went out there. What was that?
You need to talk to Brian and any other Wave PHP presenters, attendees, anybody who plan on being here in San Diego for Wave PHP. If you belong to a community, if you belong to a user group, you guys, if you want to bring stickers, you want to promote it. I mean, we should really think of a way to.
This is what I was saying. I was telling him, listen, we're all about community, and our complaints about other to go unnamed conferences is they aren't about community. So having the Peak PHP logo in the corner of your slides during the presentation to us is a positive. You're putting it out there and saying, I'm an organizer or presenter for Peak PHP. People should know that. That's not something
we encourage them to even have a slide that outlines that.
So I'm glad that this came up because I wanted to make sure I didn't overstep my bounds and say like, hey, cross marketing is bad because I know marketing is crazy. I don't want to step on your guys' feet at all.
So yeah, there's a difference with when you're talking about community. I wouldn't let Laravel come in and just market because he's making money off of the project. It's not a community type thing. And I don't mean to pick on Laravel. I mean anything.
But
if you're going to promote, if you're going to promote to the people that are attending any conference, and you make money off of that, then you should be sponsoring that conference. Something like a user group like Peak PHP, you're not there to make money. You're just kind of talking about, hey, if you happen to be in our area, we have a meetup that we would like you to attend. And supporting the greater community by talking about your user group. You're also talking about user groups in general.
Do you guys have a community moment planned or a community?
Yeah, I think we're gonna try to do something. Yeah,
it'll be during the opening, during the closing, as Eric and I are up there bickering like we normally do. We will definitely acknowledge the community.
Up there like this, looking at everybody.
Just disappointed.
So normal.
Yeah,
yeah.
My normal rusting bitch face, as I'm told.
12 feet tall and upset at your decisions.
So Cal Evans is going to be there. He'll talk a lot about community, I know. But him talking in 2010 when I went to my first tech about community is what got me to where I'm at today. It's what got me out of my rut with where I was at, got me going to user groups. all of that.
Cal, my life would have
Hmm.
been so much better had you not done that. But to kind of expand on the cross promoting, I mean, if you look over at the sponsors, you see one of the sponsors of Wave PHP is Sunshine PHP, another conference, another community conference. And again, we felt comfortable letting them sponsor our conference because it's kind of the same mindset of, it's a community focused conference.
Right. Just kind of promoting to each other. And if you are in the mindset of going to a conference, you're not going to go to just one. Go to a few different ones, because there are so many good ones, and it's all about networking. I mean, the number of people I know from the PHP community that have been able to get a job just because they were let go where they were at, but they had access to our community and are all of a sudden working again, just shows you the power of having that networking experience.
Yeah, it's just nice to share knowledge and get different opinions and views, and again, you build up friendships at these things that carry over. Especially thanks to things like Twitter and Facebook and these social media platforms where you can meet people once a year and continue your relationship and conversations with them throughout the year until your paths cross again at another conference down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really true, Eric, is you can't be a dick about everything unless you've been exposed to everything.
I don't think he said that, but
no,
I guess that'll work.
I'm trying to smoothly transition from having to go to the bathroom due to my walnut bladder.
Well, I was going to ask if you had agreed with everything we had stated up until this point, but
well, I'm not editing. I don't know. I won't know what you said this time.
Now you have to listen to the show. Oh, again, for the record, I went back and listened to shows. Thomas did miss out on one show. It wasn't necessarily his fault.
Really?
It was a technical issue that we couldn't overcome, but you missed out on the show that John and I recorded at PHP Tech in Atlanta. The group, the group one. So that wasn't necessarily your fault. But what's funny is listening. So I went back and I started listening to all the intros, which is like my favorite part of the show. I can listen to like the first 20 seconds of the show over and over again. But it was funny way back in the day how big of a deal it was that you never even listened to the show. Like what? It was like always a thing. It's like
until I had to edit it.
It's like I don't even remember what we talked about. I didn't listen to the show. It's like you didn't. How could you not listen to the show? No.
See, now the back catalog is just so big. I can never catch up.
No, you couldn't.
Although we have listeners trying to catch up, which is to me insane.
That is some self-abuse right there. I tell you.
I'm
listen
curious.
to it backwards. We make a lot of weird comments that, when you listen to it backwards, make a lot of sense.
What place do you think we're in the PHP podcast sphere? I mean,
it's not a race. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think we're losing then.
I think what takes everybody by surprise is when they see how many shows we have, like how many shows we've recorded, and that this isn't something these guys are just started doing or anything like that, and they see they've been doing this for a couple of years. Which is how surprising.
It's just surprisingly wrong they are. It's that every week it's just like maybe we're doing it. It's hard to get you guys both together at the same time. We only verify at the last minute.
There's no need to verify. We know what time we're doing it every week. I mean, I don't understand why you're always verifying.
I live in a paranoid sphere.
We know what time we're recording. It's the same. For months our standard reply was we only record on Thursdays. Tom would spend the next 15 minutes, but it's Thursday, guys, it's Thursday. Today's Thursday.
Hey,
Tom, just so you know, I understand your paranoia. when it comes to time issues, I've got the same thing, the same issue. Just yesterday, I had somewhere I had to be, hired a babysitter, and an hour before, I'm like, hey, I know it's an unusual time, but you're gonna be here, right? my babysitter was late.
You want to hear a fun
Oh.
fact? You want to hear something fun, Thomas?
I mean,
I know John
if
knows
it's
this, but I
numeric,
don't
I'd
know
love
if
it.
you-
If it has something to do with 116.
and all of our listeners might appreciate this too. My 20-year-old daughter, who works for Diego Dev,
20.
yeah, she's 20 now.
Fuck.
College graduate. She got her first diploma from
Congratulations.
a 2-year. Yeah, she announced her candidacy for mayor of our little
Poway.
town here.
Okay, well
Yeah.
now you have to say her name.
Emily Johnson. I mean,
Emily, is it Johnson
Yeah.
or Van Johnson?
it's
Just
Johnson.
Johnson.
Just
Wow.
Johnson. And
Disrespectful.
yeah. Why? That's my last name, Johnson.
I don't know.
But yeah. So my daughter, not only did she go to file the paperwork to run for mayor, because she was this new candidate, and she didn't. I don't know all the reasons, but she had to get a certain amount of signatures on a petition to add her to the ballot.
Mhm.
And she got all the signatures, so she is an official running mayoral candidate right now of our
That
of
is
our town
awesome.
here of Poway.
Congratulations.
So we need to think of ways to troll the elections, the voting here in Poway, just to make everybody paranoid. Like start promoting her. I don't even know if she has a. I know she started a Instagram handle for her mayoral run. Maybe I'll put that in the show notes as well.
I'll call all the Russians I know.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting time here at the ranch, and yeah, fun stuff. I'll add her Instagram to the show notes.
The funny thing is, after I learned that about her yesterday or today, I was watching American Ninja Warrior from probably like 5 weeks ago, and the mayor of wherever they were at the time looked like a young kid, like
Yeah.
in their 20s.
It's becoming really common because
Wow.
of the stuff going on.
Meanwhile, they're probably 30, and I'm just getting older now. So they look like a young
There's
kid.
that. There's that as well. Yeah.
I've seen some pictures of when we first started hanging out at SDPHP, and there was a lot less gray on all of us.
What the hell's that?
Wow, Amber Alert! That's the signal that we have to go.
Wow. Oh.
Hopefully that's all that
That's
was.
exactly what it is.
Well, not hopefully. Amber Alerts are never good.
Do you guys have 5 more minutes?
Sure.
I want to boil down a conversation that John and I had earlier and give my research into it. We were talking about a new library that came out called gRPC.
Mm-hmm.
This is Google's RPC framework. And we talked about, well, what is RPC versus REST? And so I did some research into it. And essentially, RPC is treated like method calls or function calls, and REST is treated like a resource, like a database. So that was an interesting sort of revelation for me, is that if you want to sort of send a command, do something, or process something, an RPC call would be the proper way to do that. But if you're accessing a trove of information, if you're getting a database set back or something like that, or updating a record, then a RESTful API method would be the appropriate way to call that. And
That's fascinating, because we all try to force REST into, like, trying to find some way to represent that processing as some sort of RESTful endpoint.
right,
Mhm.
and I feel like with PHP, we've done that because RPC hasn't really been the option available. But in scenarios where, let's say, you want to send an image to a server and receive the image back with a watermark added to it, you're not expecting the data on the server to change. You're expecting the thing you're sending to be changed and sent back. That would be an RPC call. But if you're looking through a library of information and want to pull a specific record, that would be a RESTful call. So I'm very interested in incorporating this into my programming style. I don't know if you guys have any comments on that, but I thought that was interesting.
So I saw it in a tweet. I pulled it up and started reading it. It was very interesting, and a lot of the examples they're using are from iOS and Android apps. So you're in the middle of an Android app, and you need to do something. So as a developer, I now want to do some processing on the server. I'm going to make an RPC call versus getting data, which would be like you're saying, a RESTful call.
Yeah. So sort of the record versus action behavior.
Very
that was. I mean, that was the whole
interesting.
thing. I guess it didn't need to be 5 minutes, but
yeah, like I said, when I saw it, I shared it in a couple of channels trying to get other people's opinion on it, and the fact that you found that article was helpful.
Yeah, I've found myself to be very lazy recently and become unhappy with that, and I need to expand my knowledge base again.
Interesting.
I need to get out there and learn other languages. I really should know Node, and I just don't. And that
I picked up Go again. I was doing some Cake PHP coding last weekend. I was very close to switching Wave PHP over to Cake, just to do it.
Just fuck it.
Yeah, just so like I think I put it in a tweet. I wanted to have a goal. I wanted to be working towards something. Because I was kind of going through the tutorials on Cake again, and I'd done Cake previously, so a lot of it was just some muscle memory was kicking in, and so I'm like, man, I bet you I could convert Wave PHP to Cake in like an hour. And I started to do it. Then I started thinking about a couple of services that I had. As a matter of fact, a couple of services I had written for Marcus, who's working on the chatbot. I'm like, I don't want to rewrite those right now, and didn't want to disrupt anything he was working on. But then I started.
Good.
Go ahead. I was saying, then I started taking up Go again, which again. Go is like one of those things. It's like Python. It's like it seems like it's so useful, and I really start to enjoy like coding in it. And then at the moment I get through the tutorials, I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do anything anymore. I don't know how to do it.
So I started. Crap. What was I going to say?
Well, I can say that for me,
I hate when that happens.
My hard and fast rule is if I know the language, then that's the language I use. And the language I quote unquote know is PHP. So that's the language I keep using. But the reality for me is that there are certain tasks that should not be done by PHP that I still do with PHP. Yeah. And I need to reassess why I'm doing those things with PHP. I do a lot of image processing for my admin system, and it shouldn't be PHP anymore. It should be a much faster system. It should be something that supports threading and all sorts of optimizations. And the reason that it isn't is because I don't know how to call a job from Laravel queues to a Node job processor, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a fault of mine. I should be doing this, but I'm not. And the fact that I'm not, I think, is holding me back as a programmer.
Well, then you go to the meetup last night where he was saying that PHP has come so far since the early days that anything you can do in another language, there's no reason not to do in PHP now.
Yeah,
so I just don't know that that's true.
He mentioned Node,
anything.
and the big thing with Node is what they're calling async, but it's using select to be able to saturate your CPU. So you're offloading a lot of the work into not necessarily promises, but that is just the object that we're used to seeing. But it's better architecting of your code. If you can, PHP allows you to do it. Just most of us as PHP developers don't have that mindset to do so.
So that's a bummer to hear. My apologies to Sean Mays, because I'm gonna have to see Jesse Decker's presentation.
John,
I remember what I was going to say. So I would open up a PR recently. So the main project I work on, there's developers there that I feel now run circles around me. And I'm back in that mindset of having imposter syndrome. Like up until I started working with them, I thought I knew what I was doing. I open a PR and somebody does a review and they're like, yeah, but you should really be using an adapter here. And then on that adapter is where you should put this code and you should be doing this. So then I spent like an hour trying to take their advice and put it into the PR, like change my code to match that, and ended up down so many rabbit holes where my commit message was like, I give up. I wrote back on the PR like, I understand what you're saying. I just can't seem to wrap my head around it. Like I wanted to say I'm not smart enough to do it, but I stopped writing that because that sounded like, oh, woe is me. I just laid it out like I tried. I went down a rabbit hole.
It's a bad mental habit.
Right. And I failed. So at this point, either accept the PR as is because I know it works. I have tests that prove it works. Maybe it's not the best. Or we just close the PR and say, screw it, it's not that important. Or you take it over. Or somebody else takes it over. And then I went back to it the next day, started working on it, and made another commit of shrug, like, I don't know. And then a third commit, like, trying again. And I finally got what I think he was after. So it was just this, like, oh, I hated that. Felt dumb during that time.
welcome to my world.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it to an end.
No,
every time I talk to you, John, that's how I feel.
You said that to me.
That's weird.
Why does no one say that to me anymore?
All right,
You don't
I think
know
that's it. We're wrapping up. We ran way too long. I thought for sure this was going to be a short show, but well,
Sure was a shit show.
well, that's pretty much on par. All right,
Plus,
episode.
I got some Rocket League to go
116.
play.
What,
Are
John?
you playing? I haven't seen you online.
Nothing, Eric. We'll talk later.
No, we'll cut all that out.
That's-
That all can be edited out.
yeah, Eric's editing this
Episode
one.
116 is in the bag. I'm Eric Van
John's in the
Johnson.
can. I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout. Keep it
Keep
up.
it ugly.
Keep it ugly. All right, I'm stopping recording.
I have an offline